Good morning, Rumble. Good morning, YouTube. Welcome back to the Ryan Matta Show. I'm your host, Ryan Matta. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Friday morning. Today is April 5th at 10 a.m., and we are going to be joined by a special guest, Brenda Bentley, today. And I'm not going to overtalk it. We're just going to dive right into all things Bitcoin. Brenda, welcome to the show, and thank you for joining me this morning.
Thank you, Ryan, for inviting me.
So excited to have a fellow Bitcoiner who I actually met on the Orange Pill app. So if you guys are not using the Orange Pill app and you guys want to meet local Bitcoiners and get to know the people in your community, there's no better app to do that. That's how we connected. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where are you from, and we'll kind of dive into this.
I was raised in New England. I moved a lot. I moved to Ann Arbor about 32 years ago, raised 3 beautiful children here. I wrote a walking guide to Ann Arbor. It's called River Walks Ann Arbor.
Oh, cool.
And in more recent years, because I swore I'd never write another book. It was so much work, although it's well appreciated by the people here in Ann Arbor. But I started making some videos, just a few. I've got a very rudimentary YouTube channel, just my name, Brenda Ellen Bentley. And the videos are about the Ice Age landscape here in Michigan. It's a glaciated landscape, so it's very special and very beautiful. And if you learn to see the debris left by glaciers, then you appreciate it a lot more. And
Wow, that's
and
super cool.
in the videos, I kind of teach, that's a came and that's a
Yep.
glacial erratic, a boulder, and we have so many of them lying on the ground everywhere.
Wow, Ann Arbor
And
is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
well, we've got 2 moraines. We're right on 2 moraines that run parallel to each other.
What's a moraine?
Um, it's a massive, massive hill, hundreds of feet high. It's debris that dropped out of a mile-high ice that used to stand here on the landscape. And when it melted away, all that material, tremendous amount, sand, clay, stones, boulders, was just left, drift on the landscape. And then all the tremendous meltwater carried a lot of that material very far, like the smaller particles, the clays and the sands got carried very far. And you have these vast, vast deposits of deep, deep, deep sand and gravel mixed. So that's called aggregate, although some areas are, very deep sand. And you've got, like up where you live in Milford, the whole area is called the interlobate because it was between 2 lobes. It's all pocked with lakes, which were great big masses of disintegrating ice that get piled high around the blocks with this outwash material, this gravel. And then the ice eventually melted, although it might have taken hundreds of years for some of these larger blocks to melt. So we're left with the beautiful lakes, the Lake District.
It is beautiful.
It's the high ground too. It's so strange that the high ground has all the lakes, and the low ground, which is the lake plain, down where Detroit and Toledo are, it's just flat, flat, flat clay.
Wow, how cool. And we were talking a little bit before this too. It's weird how Bitcoiners and conservatives and how like different value sets align. And you had said that you had raised 3 beautiful children and you guys were also homeschooling. And that was, I know your children are kind of grown up now, so that was before homeschooling was ever cool. What made you want to homeschool your children back then?
Oh, great disappointment with the schools. Of course, I could see that the schools weren't doing a very good job. But even looking back on my own childhood, I'm in my 60s. Even looking back on my own schooling, and my parents were told that, oh, the schools are great, they're the best ever. I was a boomer child. So all kinds of schools were built during the 60s for all the many, many, many boomer kids. But I remember being so bored in school, and I hated the jail-like atmosphere. You have to be there at a certain time. You have to sit in your seat, and you have to ask, to go to the bathroom. And then I was looking at the clock, waiting for lunch, and then waiting for the end of the school day. Just not enjoying it. I loved learning, but learning was pretty minimal, actually, in that kind of an environment. I started being aware of homeschooling might have been right about when I was starting to have my own family. Um, I was always very interested in that. I myself love to teach the kids everything, we did a lot. We did a lot of fun things. One of the best things I had them in was 4-H, because they would do a project. They would
Mhm.
design something, build something, make something, and then show it
Yep.
for someone else to assess. At the fair where the judges actually look at what
Yeah.
you made, and
Yeah.
each child stands with the judge, and the judge asks them questions. How did you make this? How did you solve these various problems in the product? So that's one of the best things you can do in homeschooling, um, which probably most children in the school system, they're not given that kind of an opportunity. Oh, I love homeschooling. And now, of course, there's a lot of resources for the parents. For me, I was going to the library and bringing home armloads of books every week. But I didn't have the online resources, though, in those.
Hmm.
It wasn't that long ago. I mean, it was in the 90s. It
Yep.
wasn't that long ago.
So did you had touched on the building projects in 4-H. It's funny, as I just bought my son at DIY Tesla coil, so we're gonna get ready to
Wow!
build our own Tesla coil next week. So I thought that was pretty cool, and
Oh, that's great.
you know,
One of my sons built RC planes and helicopters and things, and he
oh,
had the
that's awesome.
time to do it.
Yep. And it is.
Wonderful.
You're right about. I think you're 100% right about school, and there was never any education about finance or money or taxes.
No,
And I guess
sadly,
you don't.
ridiculous.
Yeah, you're a kid. You probably think those things are boring, right? But like when you get to an adult, you look back and you go, those could have been some of the most valuable lessons. All that time we spent with like wasted, garbage education content that you never use when we could.
Absolutely. And one thing that interested me very much was the vocational training that they did away with um, a few decades ago. Helping people, don't force everybody into college. Let some people become welders and
Mhm.
electricians and things. Encourage them to. Those are great professions. And I'm sorry, what were you saying? I was
No, no,
responding.
no. That was great. No, I'm just listening. I'm taking it all in. So when was it? I guess when was the first time that you heard about Bitcoin?
Well, it was 2017 or earlier. And I think whoever first presented it to me must have made a very good case for the philosophical side of it, because that's what would have sold me, is that it's an important new thing for a new economy, because the dollar hasn't been working well. And I had already been primed with G. Edward Griffin's book, The Creature from Jekyll Island.
Uh,
I already knew about that book from when it first came out, and I think that was in the 1990s sometime, um, about how horrible the Federal Reserve is and why it was created. And all it really does is create money in order to bail out the government,
mhm.
so that the government has more money because it always overspends. But that's okay, because all it has to do is tax the citizens more. And so it's this very corrupt system where the Federal Reserve supplies money to an out of control government because it spends too much. This is outrageous. So, anyway, I knew about these kinds of basic foundational things when I first heard about Bitcoin. And probably it was described as the future and the new economy, and the dollar is going to collapse. I don't know if that whole story was fully fleshed out for me, but I did immediately glom right on to Bitcoin when I heard about it. I know recently I was visiting with some people, and I said, "Oh, I just understood immediately that Bitcoin was good, and I got it." But I actually was primed before I first heard about it. And even in my childhood and in my young adulthood, working and doing creative things that created a product, like an independent uh, thing that I made and then sold, that the government then wanted to reach in and take a bit of.
Mhm.
And I could have sat home. I could have just been changing diapers instead of doing some other creative thing that was a product that was valuable enough for somebody to pay me for.
Yeah.
Uh, and yet the government wanted a piece of that. So anyway,
No,
I
keep
was
going. No, keep going. You're dead on. I'm really enjoying this.
I was fully primed when I heard about Bitcoin. And then now, in just the last 2 years or so, when like people in the EU, Lagarde, and people are saying you will own nothing and be happy. Well, by God, I certainly want to own my own Bitcoin.
Mhm.
You know, many of us might want to rent a car. We might even want to rent a house. Maybe even all our pots and pans and stuff we could rent, I guess. I don't know. But I certainly want to control my own Bitcoin and own it.
Mhm.
I'll say that much. Um,
Yeah.
so it's very, very something corrupt of them to try to lull us all into that kind of a happy UBI land.
Yeah.
That
Slavery.
can't possibly work.
So when you first heard about it, walk me through that process. Were you able just to go out and buy it? What year was that? That was, I think we talked a little bit before. That
Oh
was
gosh.
2017, right?
Oh, it was really, really difficult for me. There weren't all these YouTubes, like
Hmm.
people like you out there telling us how to do it. I wanted the Bitcoin and I didn't know how to get it.
Yeah.
Actually, embarrassingly, it did take me a few years, a couple years at least, to figure out, oh, you need an exchange.
Yeah.
You need to go to an exchange. So I took I had a business account and I figured out, got to get an exchange. I joined the exchange and handed over my social security number and my birth date and my everything, which made me nervous, but I had to. But then my bank, my nanny state bank, apparently would not allow me to buy Bitcoin in that exchange. So then it took me at least another year or so to change banks and get a private account. And anyway, and then I finally got into an exchange, bought my Bitcoin, ordered my cold card, got
Mhm.
my cold card, got that. Now I have my own Bitcoin and my own cold card and my older
Yep.
son. Likewise, and my sister, I taught her how to do it. One of my sisters, I have 3 sisters, the other
Hmm.
2 can't yet be bothered, and
Yep.
my brother's not yet either.
Yeah, that's we
Yeah.
totally talked a little bit before. I think that's the family dynamic, and I've heard it from so many other people. Is like if the older brother or the younger sister or the cousin tells you to buy it and they buy it, and you almost mock them or laugh at them or just completely discredit it. It almost reinforces your own bad beliefs, and then it's more something like even no matter how much good you see in Bitcoin, it's your ego that you can't get over, right? And when in reality, you should bite that bullet, and apologize to them. Not even apologize because nobody's asking for an apology, but just like we just want you to help yourself, and we want you to get involved in it because there's no greater gift that you can give to your family. And it sounds like you have your
No,
sons involved in it,
I'm sorry, what was that?
and you have your sons on now. You said your son's involved, like he has a
Yeah, yeah.
mission. So tell us about your son's mission and to get his first Bitcoin.
He was great. He's in his 40s now, has a family. Um, I have it in some notes. That's why I can promise you this is correct. Um, I was knowing I had heard about Bitcoin and I wanted it, and probably I told him. And then he is the one who sent me a little Trezor One
Hmm.
device. Now, it isn't, for those of you watching who don't understand, it isn't the device that holds the Bitcoin. It's the device that allows you to access the blockchain um, and have your Bitcoin, which is out there.
Yep.
But anyway, he sent that to me, and I had to learn to use it.
Hmm.
Um, and apparently he had one too, which I think he has since lost. So anyway, but he now has another one. So
Hmm.
anyway, we all have our very painful
Oh yeah.
early Bitcoin loss stories.
Yep. Yep.
It's very painful indeed.
Very much
And I
so.
don't know that for a fact, so I shouldn't rumor monger on him like that. But I'm afraid to ask, so I won't ask. But
Hmm.
but anyway, yeah, he's the one who sent me that first little Trezor One, and I have it still. Actually, I tried a couple years ago to access it again to try to make it work, and it needs new firmware and stuff, and it
Yep.
wouldn't work for me. And anyway, that's okay. I have a better one now. But
Yep.
probably keep it for my Bitcoin museum or something. Anyway,
Yeah. And so at what point did you go from like this thing's just a uh-oh, someone's calling. What point did you go from this being like, okay, I see this thing Bitcoin, I'm interested in it, I want to buy some, to like now you're like, I need to allocate as much of my wealth. We had talked a little bit about this is the only time in history where you almost can go and take out a loan to buy this thing and do whatever you have to do, sell houses, sell property, sell, pawn
Yes.
your no, I always say pawn your wife's
Yes.
red and wing and pawn your kids' Legos, but
Absolutely. No, that's a really good metaphor. Absolutely. My husband is always taking care of the money. He's always, tried to make sure we're not going to be impoverished when we're 80. But he didn't care for the cold wallet and owning your own. He thought, oh, grayscale is fine, grayscale. And, just a little bit is fine. Yeah. And I had my own few little stocks. I was just playing around trying to learn how to do stocks. And I put all of mine at first into grayscale because that's all you could do at first until January this year. Well, I cashed out. And that's all now on my cold wallet in the form of Bitcoin. Even though, I had to pay for those transactions and taxes and stuff. Yep. So, but at least I just take every little corner that I can and get it into that wallet. So.
And then do you also have do you still have your businesses? Are your books are you generating more revenue that you're, monthly or weekly, or any chance you get to get more Bitcoin?
I've always had these little gig economy ways of little revenue streams.
Yep.
Like I wrote the walking guide, Ann Arbor River Walks Ann Arbor. It's a walking guide to Ann Arbor, and people here in Ann Arbor enjoy it, but I'm not going to update it and reprint it. But it's still a few copies available in the bookstores. But so that's a tiny. But then I rent my house as a vacation rental by owner for we live near the University of Michigan, and the house is a large house, and I can rent it for the big football weekends and the graduation weekends, and that's a very nice little revenue stream. I don't rent it year round. I used to just do Airbnb for the downstairs bedroom under the kitchen, which has its own entrance at the patio entrance. But my husband has been very ill for a long time, and he doesn't want people here all the time, which is fine. And neither do I, because I want to enjoy my patio in the summer. But when I rent it for the football weekends, we go someplace nice for a few days, and that's a great joy. And the guests basically pay for wherever we go. I mean, sometimes I go far, like Miami, to a Bitcoin conference or something, So, but yeah, your question was about the revenue streams. No, I don't really have a business per se. I'm just, I don't like to think of myself as trying to be a business person anymore. I'm mostly very interested in helping other people. Bitcoin is kind of my main evangelistic thing.
Right. It's funny, evangelistic. I interviewed Brian D. Mint yesterday, who wrote the book Bitcoin Evangelism, and it's
actually, I watched it. He was awesome. I was thinking, wow, now that guy is delivering value. I'm just going to be a chatty guest.
No, I think everybody delivers value, and it's you don't do this for a living, and you came on my podcast to share your story, and I think it motivates so many more people when they start to see just your everyday person is. You don't have to be an expert. You don't have to be a mathematician. You don't have to be a old G cypherpunk. You can just, Bitcoin is for everybody, and that was the title of this show. And I normally have to think about my thumbnails for a really long time, and it just came to me. I was like, Bitcoin is for everybody. What a great title for this show, because that's what it really means.
Ryan, the thumbnail you made for me, is that your logo? Those two wings with the B in it?
No, I typed in some stuff, and that's what came up when I was just throwing stuff at AI, and that came up.
That is a beautiful, those double wings like that.
Mhm.
That's an ancient symbol.
Is it
And
really?
yes, it's like ancient Egyptian or Egyptian
Wow.
plus something.
Yep.
All the Mideast there that has the very ancient history. Well, those two wings probably represent the ability to fly and see things and travel and share messages, and um, that's a very, very potent symbol. And then with the B in the middle,
Yep.
that reminds
Yep.
me of the Bentley car. I'm aware of it because my
Mhm.
is Bentley. They that logo for the Bentley automobile has the wings, and so does Harley Davidson, I believe, and a bunch of other. I think the wings are on the medical staff,
Yep.
maybe. Anyway,
Yep. I
those
think
this
Exxon
ancient
Mobil
symbol.
too.
Yeah, that's right.
Mhm.
It's a really, really beautiful symbol and a very ancient one, and I think it's very potent. I think it's full of some very good very good meanings.
Yep.
So whoever did that with the Bitcoin B in the middle, that's awesome.
That was
Thanks for putting it
AI.
on my
You're very
thumbnail.
welcome. Yeah, it's crazy how good this AI technology is getting, and it's free too. That's the craziest part about it. You get 15
I
free a day, and I was just like, I paid somebody $100 to make a thumbnail for a documentary that I'm doing, and I just typed one thing into this AI, and it spit me out like the perfect cover photo for a documentary, and I was just like,
Oh my
wow.
gosh. Well, see, and then you can be more productive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all of this microprocessor technology, it's letting us fly, to use that verb again from those wings. It's allowing people like you and many, many, many others to fly and literally too go all over the world. Tomorrow morning, I'm flying down to South America. My daughter lives in South America. She and her husband have an online business, and they've lived all around the world because it's
Mm-hmm.
cheaper.
Yep.
And I'm going to take care of my grandchildren for a week while my daughter goes to a women's CEO retreat in
Yep.
Arizona. but but uh, but it's nothing for me to fly to South America. When I was her age, it was a big deal. And it was still a luxury thing to go get on the airplane, and they gave you food with real
Mhm.
silverware, and they gave you napkins, and afterward they gave you a hot washcloth to wash with.
Mhm. Yep.
Now, of course, the airplane is just a bus, but
Yeah.
we are very mobile now, and that's exciting.
You know,
But that technology that has really, really opened the whole world to everybody, that's super exciting. And the productivity. Imagine the
yeah.
productivity that you could be so much more super productive because of these kinds of helps.
And
And the,
and but I want to dive into that a little bit more because you're right. A free market by design, if you listen to what Jeff Booth teaches, is deflationary by design.
yes,
Those flights, right? The reason they take away the food, they hot washcloths is because that's all additional cost, right? And when you're devaluing the currency, right? If our currency never got devalued and a flight back then was say 100 something bucks, which I'm sure was a lot of money back in those
yeah,
days, right? Like
yeah,
$100 a lot.
yeah,
Now it's
yeah,
4 or 5, maybe even 10 times as much money. And the quality of service that you're getting is 10 times less. But it shouldn't
yes,
be that way, right? You should have stayed paying $100 and then got more additional services because you get more fuel efficient, right? The cost of producing an airplane becomes less. The the service
yeah,
on it becomes less. Everything becomes less. So by the market should be deflationary by design, but because we have this thing called fiat and they abuse it, right? It's like the the bag of chips that you used to get when you were a kid was like a 16-ounce bag of chips and it was a nickel. And now you
yeah,
get like a 4-ounce bag of chips and it's like 250. And
I
you're like,
know.
wait, right? And it's not even like before it was probably a real slice of a potato. And now it's like this GMO organically grown in a lab, injected with hormone type of like you're eating plastic or like just chemicals and
And,
you're
and
paying.
fried in a seed oil instead of beef tallow. That's another one of my evangelistic things is regenerative agriculture and good high quality saturated fats.
It's It's crazy, and I was even thinking about like the eggs, right? I eat raw eggs for breakfast every day, like 6 to 12 of them. And
Oh,
and
good
I've
for
done that
you.
for like the last like 10 years, pretty much since my son was born. And I was thinking about it, they tell you that like don't eat raw eggs because there's salmonella in them. And you can get salmonella. And I go, well, and it's like one in every like 1,000 or something is supposed to have salmonella in it. And I'm like, I was doing the math on how many eggs I've eaten. I've eaten like over 100,000 eggs. Never once got sick. And then I started to think about like, wow, is that even really a thing? Or is that something that they try to convince us is a thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
And then if you live in a nursing home, they won't let you have a soft boiled egg. They won't let you because of the danger of salmonella. So that nanny state stuff is, I'm very, very,
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that nanny state stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, have your eggs. I make smoothies for my husband with 6 raw eggs,
Yeah.
egg yolks, I should say. I separate the whites. Um, he needs that protein and the vitamin E. Eggs are one of the most perfect foods in the world. And
Sure.
very, everywhere you go, like I'm going to Columbia tomorrow, there's chickens walking around everywhere.
Mhm.
That's so good. Almost everybody has chickens. They're getting their eggs. They're not considered wealthy people, but they have chickens.
Yeah.
That's one of the best foods in the world.
Do you see so how long do you think it's going to be before our country really starts to wake up? I mean, I don't think that another generation, like every generation that I can remember as far back as my great grandparents, like my parents had it harder than my grandparents in certain aspects, right? Like some qualities of life may have been a little bit better and things may have gotten a little bit better for them. But as far as like their ability to save wealth and pass wealth on to the next generation, it keeps getting worse and worse. And now if you have a kid that grows up and he turns 18, like his ability to go out and get a normal job in society and have his own apartment or buy his own mortgage. And then, you're only working 40 hours a week when our parents only had to work 40 hours a week and a single man could support a family of five on
Yes.
one paycheck, right?
Yeah. And this business of a 30-year mortgage and then to continually roll it over so that even when you're 70, you're still paying your mortgage. That's ridiculous.
Mhm.
And when mortgages first became available, I don't know when, I guess maybe more than 100 years ago. But anyway,
Mhm.
the point is they would be 5 years or 10 years. And you really would, you know, struggle right along and pay it off and not have a mortgage the rest of the time.
Yep.
And especially when you're raising children, you can't be paying a mortgage. Um, I mean, all of us, my generation and my parents' generation, and probably even my grandparents' generation, did pay a mortgage for many years. But um, I always had jobs. Um, I always, I always had really good waitress jobs. I wasn't considered really good, but um, I remember I got $1.38 an hour. That was required so
Yep.
that it would cover my taxes, and then the tips, they would kind of make you claim some of the tips, but
Mhm. Yeah.
basically I didn't have to claim all the tips.
Yep.
So it wasn't a bundle of money, but it was better than just being a grocery store clerk. If
Mhm.
when I was a teenager in the
Yeah.
70s, um, I um, I did have an apartment. I shared it with my cousin, and it was a junky little apartment in an attic. It was ridiculous, but I did have an apartment, and I worked as a waitress only part time.
Mhm.
And I don't know if this generation can do that kind of thing. And I was paying little, bills like the electric bill and whatnot. I didn't have a car, I had a bicycle. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. It does seem extremely unfair. Um, the tax burden, um, many of these little gig jobs I've had, I taught technical writing when my children were in diapers, and I was making $2,000 teaching for the whole semester. And I got that little $2,000, and I wanted curtains. I wanted to buy curtains. I didn't have curtains, you know.
Yeah.
Um, well, that government, boy, it wanted a piece of that. And, I said to myself, heck, I could have stayed home and changed diapers
Mhm.
instead of knocking myself out for a whole semester teaching this class. And then should the government take? Anyway, I'm deviating from your original question, I think.
Oh, no, I wanna throw a video at you and,
Yeah, but the young people nowadays, yeah, it's a well-known fact, well documented that the dollar has been devalued so much more for
mhm,
every subsequent generation, and things like the cost of houses. Now, when I was about in my early 30s and living in Texas, the interest rates for houses was up above 20%. So everybody was wringing their hands about buying houses. But anyway, it is clearly because of the Fed printing money.
mhm,
Um, the economy isn't working properly. Capitalism isn't supposed to work that way. It should be so worth your while to produce something, to work and
mhm,
produce something, that the whole society is is on fire with activity.
mhm,
Because if you do something active, create something, you get rewarded. You get to keep what you've created.
mhm.
You get to keep most of your profit.
Yep.
And that isn't really the case anymore.
No,
There's
you're
there's
hun
a deflation, disincentive. Um, like I was just saying, why should I bother teaching that class? I'll just stay home and take care of my children.
Yep,
Um, that's not good for a vibrant, flourishing society.
yep. I think you're right. I wanna throw a video at you, and, I wanna play this, and then we can talk about it right after because this is how I mean, these are going viral every day. I find a new one of these, and this was the one that came this week, so I wanna throw this at you and get your feedback on it.
I cannot stand how the news has been dogging Gen Z and calling them lazy for not wanting to work a 9 to 5 for the rest of their lives. Let me put it in perspective for everybody who's a little confused here, okay? I work 5 days out of the week, 40 hours a week, okay? I do not make enough to live on my own. I would not make enough to pay rent, water, electric, and eat. All by myself. I would not be capable of doing that. 20 years ago when you were getting started, you could live on your own. 20 years ago when you first started, you were able to do everything that I am now struggling to do. Let me add another perspective here. You've been working for 20 years. You have 20 years of working experience behind your belt. You have 20 years of experience in a career that has allowed you to gain raises, to get more money, to profit you in an economy that you created. You can sit here and you can call Gen Z lazy all you want, but I've been working my tail end off just to barely make it by. And respectfully, I don't want to do that for the rest of my life. I don't want to work my tail end off, wasting all of my life working just to barely be able to pay my bills. And that is what you created, not Gen Z. We're just here getting started. You've been doing it for the last 20 years. You tell me how it got ruined. We can sit here and we can call Gen Z lazy all you want, but you let the economy turn into what it did. You let it all run to hell. And now it's Gen Z's fault because we don't want to work to fix your mistakes.
Yeah. Well, it's the Fed. See, the
Mhm,
Fed has been ruining the value of the money, and the whole economy has become soft. But we shouldn't be. I don't blame her one bit, but we
mhm,
shouldn't be at each other's throats.
yeah,
Um, I remember when I was young and I wanted curtains. I didn't even have curtains, and I kind of hated the retired people for drawing Social Security. And I thought, well, why do they, get to draw that Social Security and keep their job and draw Social Security at the same time? That doesn't seem fair to me. Um, I didn't understand the whole thing then, but it shouldn't be generation against generation. It's
mhm,
it's our economy has not been cared for. And by the way, my whole life, we kept saying, "Oh, we got to get the Republicans in office, and they'll balance the budget." The budget isn't balanced. Those bad Congress people, they're supposed to balance the budget. They don't balance the budget. Well, it's the whole thing is rotten. And the Fed is printing money. They've been printing it ever since they were created in 1913. Um, and we shouldn't be against each other. We shouldn't be generation against each other,
Yeah.
making fun of the younger generation or making fun of the older generation or calling them names. The Fed is the root of the problem. The rot in we don't have sound money. Okay, we don't have sound money. Bitcoin is sound money because you can see the blockchain. You can see that, oh, the value is actually there. Whereas the bank just says, well, the gold is there, trust us, when it isn't. Or, oh, trust us, we're printing money, but it's somehow okay. They discombobulate you somehow with some explanation. Anyway, so what I'm saying is she shouldn't hate the generation ahead of her. They did not create her situation. They themselves suffered a similar cycle of that situation. We do need to evolve out of this corrupt fiat situation, dollar economy. Is it an economy? I don't even know if it's an economy. It's like fake. They're printing money and they're handing out UBI. And I remember taking a class at the community college, and I had to pay for my class. And there's this Russian girl. She says, "Oh yeah, I'm an immigrant, so they're letting me come get this class for free, and plus they give me a stipend to live and stuff." And it's like, wow, nobody ever gave me a stipend to live, or my kid. I mean, anyway, it's all just.
So what is that process? I know you had said you were a little bit primed for it. Is there a way? I mean, you teach, you're very smart, you're very educated. You have a way of connecting with people. What do you think the best way to connect with more people and help get this message out that they're like, you don't want to blame anybody except for the Fed? How do we help educate them that like
You're doing it, Ryan. You're doing it. And now there's so many of you on YouTube doing it. And we can see the ship turning. And then also these events, these very, very tragic events that have ripped the curtain off the wizard. This business of COVID. Many people now are able to see things like how very corrupt the government is, how even if you get your guy in office, that doesn't mean anything is going to change, or that the experts know best about whether or not you should wear sunscreen or whether or not you should eat fat. All of that stuff, which I believed for years. I avoided fat. I avoided the sun.
I know.
These are things we need. We need the sun.
Put a chemical on your skin, a toxic chemical to block you from getting vitamin D. What?
Yeah. And so here, this is a big thing. Most of us in Bitcoin are also at the same time into not following the traditional experts and learning, like in the health sphere. It's crazy that it's been the athletes that have been on YouTube teaching us things about health. It hasn't been the medical. It hasn't been the medical people. They're coming along now on the coattails of the athletes. But I first heard about low carb and high fat and fasting and things from Jeff Volek when my husband first got cancer. And ever since then, I've learned so much from athletes and their trainers and people like Mike Mutzel. He's not in the medical profession, but he's extremely knowledgeable, reading all the best papers, although he's also pointing out that a lot of these scientific tests can't even be replicated, which means they're not valid.
Yeah, 100%.
Anyway, there's all this stuff coming out, whereas before, just a couple years ago, just 4 or 5 years ago, we believed the experts.
Yep.
And now the curtain has been ripped away. The government is corrupt. The deep state is vile as vile can be. We never would have believed it a few years ago.
Yep.
The experts are wrong about basic things,
Yep.
like eating meat. And they're trying to tell people they should have plant-based burgers and stuff like that. Anyway,
Yeah, plant-based made in a lab too with chemicals. It's not like you're going out and picking out a green pepper and turning it into a burger. It's like you're processing these chemicals and toxins in a lab, and then you're having a
you're right.
machine make you a patty that you're going to consume. Like, no, thank you. No, thank you. No matter what celebrity you put on that cancer burger, I am not eating it.
Cancer
Like,
burger, I know. And there's not as much nutrition in plants as
Mhm.
in animal
right?
meat. I keep telling everybody, look at the list of the nutrients. You think you've got so much in your salad? The salad has almost nothing in it for you. If you want to be strong,
It's the second law of thermodynamics. Energy can never be created nor destroyed. It can only be transferred. Think about all the energy that a cow puts out to grow and to be a cow, right? And then when you eat that, you are transferring that energy that he put from his body into yours, right?
yes,
Versus a plant just
yeah,
blows in the wind. I mean, a plant does have a little bit, but not. I mean, it's just common sense. I'll tell you that, you know?
it's good maybe in an emergency.
Yeah.
And we know that our ancestors had to eat plants and even bark
hmm
because they couldn't catch an animal. It's really hard to catch an animal because all the bones we dig, apparently, that they dig up, even ancient, 20,000-year-old bones, show well-worn teeth, implying that they've been eating bark or maybe gnawing on bones, scavenging and
Yeah.
trying to suck what they can out of those bones, or whatever they do. You can't always catch an animal. I always tell people, like, if there's nothing at the grocery store, if we have some kind of EMP event or something, and there's no food at the grocery store, what are you going to find to eat? I have a few squirrels running around in my yard. How am I going to catch one? It's going to be really hard to catch one. And then when I do, I'm not going to be able to share it with my neighbors. It's too small,
hmm
and anyway, it's difficult to catch an animal. And of course,
Yeah.
our mighty, mighty, mighty ancestors, I love them so much, flint knapping and making beautiful weapons and working together to bring down an animal and
hmm
feeding everybody with it. I'm a great amateur student of ancient history, and I love thinking about our forefathers doing that hard work. There were mammoths here, mastodons and mammoths right here in Michigan. And our earliest hunters would store the meat in these ice ponds that I mentioned earlier.
hmm
Those kettle lakes in the interlobate, a lot of them were so icy they could preserve the meat. And that's where we're finding some of those bones. Some of them potentially kill sites, and that's where the animal was stored so that it would last a long time.
It's so
Anyway,
crazy.
I love those ancient peoples.
How much of you're really into the history stuff. How much have you noticed of them trying to like rewrite history or remove pieces of history from the history books?
Yeah. Oh, for heaven's sake. Yeah. That's huge. Um,
Well, can I actually throw one at you really quick?
yeah, do
Can I
it.
throw a video? This one will blow your mind. I actually got
Okay.
two. I'll play this one first. This is on bells and their ability to hear. I want to see what you think about this.
Okay.
I think the bells of the old world had a lot more purposes behind them, from construction to healing, and they weren't just made for us little people. Just look at us little inheritors standing in front of this giant bell in Russia. Just look at some of them. Do you really think us with no power tools, no heavy lifting cranes, could have really created something this massive? There was such a focused effort to remove all these bells. They say it was for ammunition. But just look at the crowds and the controllers that gather around these bells as they're removed. They got to make sure they take their picture in front of the cameras as the bells get removed, all with such glee in their face. Looks like this gentleman's documenting the specifics of that bell. And the group of well-dressed controllers looking on in a field of confiscated bells. So that was a big part of these wars. They weren't just what they tell us they were. They were about removing the history and the technology of the old world, the true history. And bells were a big part of it. They were not just used to tell time or let you know church was starting. There's a storied history in use of these bells, from healing with the frequency they cause, to even construction. You can shape stone with sound, you can levitate stone with sound. And if you had a few giants ringing these, it would be all that much more easier. There are plenty of old world examples of sound not just shaping, but also destroying objects, like the walls of Jericho. Brick by brick, bell by bell, they have removed all traces of our true history. Question everything, friends. Until next time. This is just one of the reasons why they removed the bells during World War II. The old world knew the healing properties of frequency and vibration, and that wouldn't do for this new world order we have. We must remain dependent on the petroleum-based medications that are prescribed to us, the addictive and deadly, with many side effects. But there was a better way. As Tesla said, if you want to know the secrets of the universe, you must think in terms of frequency and vibration. Just one more thing lost to us in our hidden history.
Oh, this is extremely interesting. This is extremely interesting. We are, especially your generation and younger, massive hidden, never before known history it's coming out. I've been a follower of Randall Carlson for quite a few years. Do you know about him?
Mm-mm.
And he
Gonna write that down.
investigates these kinds of things, and the cultures from before. Well, on the topic of the sea level, let's say,
Yeah.
during the Ice Age,
Mhm.
the sea levels went way down. The continental shelf was exposed because the ice took up so much water. And we've had many ice ages. There's been probably about 20 of them. Then when the sea level rises again,
Mhm.
and ancient peoples always make their villages and home sites and whatnot on water courses or seashores. So then when the sea level rises, if they left any artifacts, they're underwater.
Mhm.
So right now we have high sea levels. Almost all not all. In fact, there might be more melting. We might be still melting from the last ice age. So people get so excited about the change in sea level, but it goes up and down.
Yeah.
There isn't one sea level. Well, it's starting to come out now. They're starting to find sites underwater that were cities and stuff, and there's people probing closely at some ancient sites made of stone, like the pyramids in Egypt and the monuments in South America attributed to the Incas, but actually it was pre-Incan, pre-Inca. Some of these most remarkable constructions, kind of just as that little video was describing, things that were made by ancient peoples that we didn't think they were capable of making. So it looks strange to us. How could they have done that? But it's all being investigated now.
Mhm.
Whereas before, especially pre, this internet technology, you could easily just tell everybody to don't look in that direction here. Just read this one history book and
Mhm.
just don't worry about these other details. Or they just plain didn't know anything about those details. But now we are. And people like you are going all over the world and taking video and sharing it with people like me, sitting in my own little house in Michigan. It's
Yep.
a whole new world. It's a whole new age. Some people have gone so far as to call this a new age. We're just now entering it. Or maybe,
So,
you know, in the mega terms, maybe we've been entering it for a long time, but it hasn't been obvious until now. It's starting to be apparent. A
yeah.
new age, where we can see that the government is corrupt, and we can
Yeah.
see that there's ancient marvels that we never knew about, and ways of building that we never gave ancient peoples credit for being able to do.
Mhm.
And the vibrations and resonances of those bells that had healing properties. And it's all very, very exciting, and made possible by this microprocessor technology.
Mhm.
Bitcoin is all made possible by the microprocessor
Yep.
technology. It's a new age.
Mhm. It's a
The
protocol.
dollar is no longer I don't want to be, I'm not a philosopher. I'm exuberant about Bitcoin and about this new information, and ancient peoples having wisdom that perhaps we've lost, but we're going to regain it. And Bitcoin is going to help us be freer and richer and healthier. Not just Bitcoin, but I mean, the attitude of being a sovereign individual
Yep.
makes you healthier. You take more responsibility for your health. You make sure you eat food that has nutrition in it, like meat.
Mhm. Yep.
And you watch videos like that open your mind
Mhm.
to other ideas, ancient ideas, and you think about things that you allow yourself to vibrate with. If
Mhm.
there's some wisdom or some message to hear, allow yourself to hear it. Maybe you'll hear it if you just try.
Yep.
Anyway, it's a whole new age. It's really exciting.
It really is. It's the protocol. Bitcoin's not just a currency. It's not just a form of money. It's literally a protocol like the internet was, right? And the internet came out in like the 1960s originally, and then it took till like the 1990s to become like HTTPS or whatever. That next layer of the protocol was built on, which allowed us to have this internet that everybody could use and access. And then came email, and then came Web 1, 2, and 3. And it was all built off this base layer. And Bitcoin is that base layer of freedom, of hope, and it restores so much of that power that has been stripped away from we the people for so long, for generations. And they've been able to just go through and delete history. Well, we now have a way to make that history
Yes.
immutable forever,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So when we build something and you engrave that into a Satoshi, that message is there forever. Nobody can ever stop that as long as the Bitcoin blockchain continues running. So their ability to go through and just destroy history is done. Their ability
Yeah.
to lie,
Because
cheat, steal,
yeah.
loot us. And all we have to
Yeah.
do is come together as a collective. And it's so, like, we've seen
Yes.
what our founding fathers and these people built, these great monumental things, and they've changed history and they work together. And that's what our government fears the most, is us just coming together. Because when we come together as a collective, we don't need them. They are absolutely obsolete. We
We
can restore
don't.
peace, love, and all of the
Yeah.
violence
Yeah.
and danger. And like, I don't think anybody wakes up and they're like, yeah, like my mission is to be like the best drug dealer ever. I mean, I'm sure there's some freaks out there, right? But like, I think if you gave that person the opportunity to go, hey, do you want to go sell drugs in the corner and risk getting shot? Or do you want to start your own business, build a family, and thrive and become a productive member of society? You want to.
Right.
Everybody would want to, right? And it's just like the government has stripped those opportunities from people by segregation and by dividing us. And that's what they're like really, really good at, is dividing. And you started it right there.
Right.
It's like, it's not Gen Z versus the boomer generation, right? It's
Right.
Gen Z and the
Right.
boomers versus the Federal Reserve versus the elite. And
Yeah.
we need
Yeah.
to target that.
Yeah. The elite.
hmm And just thinking that like we've created something in a sly roundabout way that they definitely underestimated.
Right. And
Right.
paradoxical too. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. They underestimated, and it's gotten out of their control.
It is. It's past their. I mean, I
So
heard Gary Cardone on here last week, and he gave the big double barrel middle finger to Elizabeth Warren. He's like, "What did Elizabeth Warren or any of these politicians in the United States think about Bitcoin?" He goes, and he flicked them off. He goes, "Fuck them." He goes, "The United
right.
States now only makes up for 12% of Bitcoin adoption. So if the United States completely banned it, outlawed it, you couldn't own it, and they try to take all of your Bitcoin, it would not matter to the Bitcoin ecosystem anymore. It's bigger than them, and there's no
Yeah.
stopping it now."
Yeah. 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 But Ryan, you're one of the main pillars out there doing what needs to be done. You're doing it. That's just awesome.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. We need more people like you coming on the show. And so anytime you'd already referred a couple people you said that, I'd be interested in speaking with, just keep sending them my way. I think we
Okay,
need
I
to talk
will.
to more people
I
and,
will.
keep educating your children. You're doing what a lot of us should have done. And you're a role model for a lot of people out there. So we greatly appreciate your time. And tell us one more time about your book, about your YouTube channel, and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay. Well, River Walks Ann Arbor is the book, and let's see here. It's not
Yeah.
marketing
Love
it. I'm not
I love it.
marketing it anymore because I'm not going to keep reprinting it. But my
Beautiful.
YouTube channel is just my name, Brenda Ellen Bentley, and my orange pill address is BrendaB@BrendaB. Not that I'm looking for followers or anything like that. I'm just, and then Facebook is also my name, Brenda Ellen Bentley. So I'm just thrilled to chat, and I care about the younger generation. They have a journey ahead of them.
Mhm.
And so just giving them this kind of information is, if there's any value in what I have to say, then I hope there is. But you're
Yeah.
doing the heavy lifting, and you are to be applauded for sure.
Well, thank you very much, Brenda. And she's talking about the Orange Pill app. So if you guys are new to Bitcoin, it's a couple dollars to get on, but as soon as you scan this QR code, you're actually going to get 10,000 Satoshis for free, which is equivalent to about $6, $5 to $6 in Bitcoin right now. So you pay a couple dollars to sign up, which prevents there from being a bunch of spam bots and a bunch of, 20-year-old Chinese girls telling you that they want to marry you. You just got to send them $20 in Bitcoin first, So it's a great app. It's a great place to meet fellow Bitcoiners and people that have that like-minded and have at the very least started to wrap their head around the concept of completely withdrawing from the corrupt economy. And until we fully withdraw from it, and Jeff Booth says it the best, everything we do, whether that's even me just yelling at the Federal Reserve, right? I shouldn't be yelling at them. I should just be completely ignoring them and helping educate you on why Bitcoin should be the way to go, right? Completely, even like streaming on softwares or streaming on Google, right? I'm helping that keep that economy afloat. So there's this parallel economy that's being built around Bitcoin, and I'm not far from completely removing myself from that economy and being 100% self-sufficient on a Bitcoin network or on a Bitcoin standard. So I greatly appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you so much.
Oh, and oh gosh, it's great the way you just keep hammering it, and you do it. You're saying it so well, and you're using the right words.
Oh, thank you.
All right, great meeting you, and I'm going to send you those names, those
Sounds good, Brenda.
contact.
Thank you. God bless.
Okay, God bless. Bye-bye.
All right, folks, that is a wrap over here on the Ryan Matta Show. We do 3 shows a day. We go live on LFA TV. So if you guys want to hear the political side and you guys want to dive more into exactly what's being done by the Federal Reserve and our corrupt government, come join us over on LFA TV at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Show is called Matter of Fact. It's exclusively on Rumble. We also do a nighttime show, which doing 3 shows a day is a little bit, it's going to be a lot. So I might end up only doing nighttime shows if we have a guest booked. So that'll probably change in a couple weeks. I'm going to keep going as long as I can, but eventually we're going to cut down to 2 shows a day or 1 show a day for crypto space. So that'll be over here on my Rumble and on my YouTube channel as well, and over on Twitter as well. We got a lot of people watching on Twitter. So thank you guys. Please hit that like button, share this content. God bless each and every one of you guys. And we'll catch you guys same place, same time tomorrow. Later.
Run.